Midnight Moon. Written by Suzana Thompson. Narrated by Sarah Sampino. Chapter 4. Taylor and I were at the mall when I began to feel uneasy all of a sudden. We were randomly trying on clothes for fun. Most of them were outfits that we would never buy, but we wanted to see how we looked in them. "What do you think?" Taylor asked, as she modeled a pencil skirt and matching blazer that she had paired with a sheer top. "Do I look like a sexy secretary? Imagine that I have a hot boss, and we're alone in his office. So, I unbutton my blazer, and he can't focus on business at all, so he grabs me and—" "He wouldn't touch you," I interrupted. "He'd be too afraid you'd accuse him of sexual harassment." Taylor rolled her eyes. "We're not talking about real life, and I don't even want to be a secretary. Use your imagination, Clarissa. Let's hear one of your fantasies." That was when the oddly disquieting feeling distracted me from our conversation. I looked around the fitting room like I expected to find an intruder. "Don't be so paranoid," Taylor exclaimed. "Who cares if someone hears your fantasy? Everyone has fantasies." "Damien won't be able to control himself when he sees me in this," someone said upon entering the fitting room behind us. "See what I mean?" Taylor whispered. "They'll never let you get away with wearing that to school," someone else declared. "I know, but he's in my first period class. I just have to make sure he sees me before they make me go home and change. That's what Lisa did when she wore that skimpy top without a bra. Two can play that game." Taylor was smirking at me as she listened to this conversation, but I wanted to leave. She grabbed my arm and shook her head when I started to make a move for the door. Her expression was telling me to keep silent and eavesdrop on the two girls in the next room. "That's even shorter than I thought. You won't even be able to sit down in it or your panties will show." "Who says I'll be wearing panties?" There was a tension-filled pause before the other girl spoke in answer to that provocative question. "Are you sure this is the right plan, Kristen? I mean, you want more than a one-night stand with him, right?" "Trust me on this," Kristen replied. "Sex is definitely the way to get Damien Stark. Lisa's figured out that much, but she's not what he needs." "Okay," the other girl agreed uncertainly. I thought I should tell Kristen that the soap she used was more important than wearing a short skirt, but my anxiety was steadily increasing. Taylor's blue eyes were alight with amusement, but I couldn't share in the fun. She had picked up on my distress by the time the other girls left the fitting room. "What's wrong?" Taylor asked as she changed back into her jeans and t-shirt. "Nothing," I said, lacking an explanation for why I was upset. She pulled her blonde hair out of her t-shirt and let it spill over her shoulders. Then she regarded me speculatively. "Do you still like Damien?" "No," I denied. "That was a long time ago." "But maybe you still have feelings for him," she suggested. "And they've been stirred up now that he's single." "I have no feelings for him," I insisted. "Anyway, he's been acting really weird." She pounced on that statement immediately. "In what way? I haven't heard anything like that about him." "What do you know?" I was becoming inexplicably agitated. "We need to go." Taylor hurried after me as I strode out of the fitting room. "You didn't try on the stuff you picked out," she complained. I'd left it behind on the hook, and I continued on my way out of the store and into the mall. I came to a sudden stop when I saw Damien standing in front of the fountain with two girls. Taylor snickered beside me. "She should have worn her skirt out of the store." "Who?" I asked, with my attention still on Damien. He must have felt my stare, because he looked directly at me. "Kristen Chandler. That must have been her in the fitting room, and that's Lori Schuler with her. She's still one of us, but Kristen is moving up the ladder into popularity. Her personality has changed a lot since last year. She used to be kind of shy, but now she's confident enough to compete with the popular girls for what she wants. Lisa is right at the top, where Blair was." My mind processed what Taylor was saying, even as Kristen turned to see what Damien was looking at. The way he was watching me was creeping me out, and I broke eye contact to turn in the opposite direction from him. I felt even more vulnerable with my back turned to him, but I kept walking toward the exit. "Where are you going?" Taylor questioned. I had a strong feeling that something was very wrong, but all I could say to Taylor was that we had to go. "We're parked on the other side of the mall," she reminded me. Walking back through the mall would slow us down from escaping, and we might run into Damien. I stepped through the first set of doors and halted in dismay as I noticed the darkness behind the glass of the final set of doors. "It's night." "Yeah, time goes fast when you're pretending to shop. We have to go back to the side where we parked," Taylor explained again. My eyes darted around anxiously as we walked back through the mall, but I didn't see Damien anywhere. Taylor could barely keep up with me once we went outside to the parking lot. I rushed to the car and locked us inside in relief. "What's going on?" Taylor demanded. "Wait until we get to your house," I urged, as I pulled cautiously out of the parking spot and drove tensely toward the street. When we arrived at her house, she invited me in. I looked up at the quarter moon in the sky before following her into the house. There was nothing else I could do now besides telling her the truth. Her eyes widened in astonishment as I related the strange premonition I'd had at the carnival. "Where do you get the crystal ball from?" Taylor asked. "I bought it on Amazon," I said. Her blue eyes shone with excitement. "Maybe it's magic." I hadn't considered that, and it still seemed preposterous. Yet what other explanation could there be? "Maybe." "What else did you see?" Taylor questioned. "I didn't see anything," I clarified. "There were no visions. I just said all this crazy stuff. And I was scared," I added. "Really, really scared." "What about Damien? You said he's been acting weird," she remembered. I told her about the strange incident at school when he claimed to have heard me stop in the hallway. But I didn't mention the earlier one in which he'd said all that sexual stuff about me wanting him. She didn't know what to make of that. Taylor wanted to come over my house and try out the crystal ball for herself, but I convinced her to wait until tomorrow. I wasn't in the mood to deal with that tonight, so I went home by myself. Talking to her had made me feel better, though, because I was much calmer than I had been at the mall. It wasn't until I heard a car door slam shut as I was walking up my driveway that my nerves stretched taut again. Seeing Damien didn't worry me as much as it had earlier, and I stood my ground as I faced him. "What are you doing here?" "I followed you from the mall," he admitted casually. I stared at him in the dim light. "I was at Taylor's house for an hour." "Yeah, I waited for you," he told me, seemingly unconcerned with confessing that he was stalking me. "I didn't see you," I mused aloud. "Because I parked down the street," he provided helpfully. I asked the obvious question. "Why?" He supplied an obvious answer. "So you wouldn't see me." He smiled, making me realize that he was playing with me. Then he continued in a serious manner. "You were already scared, and I didn't want to freak you out even more." There were a lot of questions that I wanted to ask, but I chose the one that interested me the most. "Why did you follow me?" "I wanted to make sure you were okay," he answered simply. Why wouldn't I be okay? I was asking him as well as myself. "You were scared, so I was worried that you might be in danger." "Like Blair?" It was a thought that I shouldn't have spoken aloud. "That won't happen," he stated fiercely. I gazed searchingly at him for a moment, but I couldn't find the answers I sought. He was like a puzzle piece that didn't fit. Damien didn't belong in my life, and he didn't say anything as I walked away from him and went into the house. I didn't even bother checking to see if he was still there before going upstairs to my room. After undressing in the dark, I put on my nightgown and looked out the window. My breath caught in my throat when I saw someone standing in my backyard. I stared intently at him until I recognized that it was Damien. He seemed to be looking up at my window, but he couldn't possibly see me without the light on. Yet I couldn't move away from the window until my phone distracted me. Taylor was calling me, but I was still preoccupied with Damien as I answered the phone. "Listen to this," she instructed me without returning my greeting. "Wolves can hear as far as 6 miles away in the forest and 10 miles in the open. According to some naturalists, wolves' hearing is greater than that of dogs." "Thanks for the zoology lesson," I remarked as I walked back toward my window. Damien was still there. "What's up with you doing homework on a Friday night?" "Damien said that they were attacked by a wolf. I started thinking about that after you left, and I looked up information on wolves. This fits in with what you were telling me about him hearing you even though he was way down the hallway from you. It's fascinating stuff. Wolves' sense of smell is even stronger than their hearing." I gripped the phone tightly in my suddenly clammy hand as I wiped the other one on my nightgown. "What does it say about smell?" "Hold on until I get to that part." She made ch-ch-ch sounds as she scrolled and exhaled when she found the relevant section. "Okay. Scent plays a very important role in the life of a wolf. A wolf's smell is up to 100,000 times greater than humans. By smell alone, wolves can locate prey, other pack members, or enemies. It can tell them if other wolves were in the territory, if they were male or female, and how recently they visited." Isn't that amazing? My mind was reeling from what was being implied here, but neither one of us was plainly stating our impossible suspicions. "Taylor, use your imagination, Clarissa. He said he was attacked by a wolf, and now he's got this super hearing. That would make sense in an imaginary world, but this is real life," I said, trying to cling to reason. "How else can you explain how he was able to hear you?" Taylor asked. "I don't know, but there has to be another explanation." Damien hadn't moved from his spot down in the yard, but now he suddenly took off running and disappeared from view. I had the crazy thought that he might have heard our conversation about him.